Hi there, this is Michelle Dunn, and this is my presentation on individual differences related to learning. First, characteristics that define me as the learner, and this is both true for me as a learner in grade school, junior high, and high school, as well as on up through into college and graduate school. The first characteristic is I am a visual learner. I learn best when concepts are taught in context. I tend to be a slow learner. I am more of a hands-on learner. And I'm a learner that lacks confidence, or at least I have lacked confidence going up through my elementary and middle school and high school years. Starting with a visual learner, I really learn best when I can see the information that I'm learning in addition to hearing it. My mind does often wander when the learning only takes place in an auditory way, such as a lecture. Just an example of this is when I go to help my children with math problems, they will often read them out loud across the room, and I have to stop and say, please bring me your paper, because I'm a visual learner and I need to see it and hear it in order to make sense of it. Another characteristic that defines me as a learner is that learning really has to be connected or put in some sort of a context or made relevant to my life. I can best make sense of what I'm being taught if it's placed in a bigger context or the big picture of all the little points that have been made along the way is shown to me. The learning needs to be relevant to me as an individual. An example of this is I can remember taking my macro and microeconomics courses in my undergraduate work and sitting in those classes just thinking, how does this apply to me being a teacher? How does this apply to me? Maybe I just couldn't see how it did when I was there really to learn about how to be a teacher, or it could have been that the professor didn't put it in context for me. Another characteristic of me as a learner is that I do tend to process slowly. I need more than one exposure often to help me best learn. I often need to reread information, I need to annotate what I read, and I need to see the same concept in different ways. Another characteristic is that I talked about is I lacked confidence. I was a very shy and quiet student, often afraid to share my ideas for fear of being wrong. That has come a long way since my elementary and junior high and high school days, but this is just the kind of learner that I remember being going up through my educational years. The next topic was, how did certain instructors or teachers respond to my unique characteristics, positively and negatively? It's interesting that this question was asked because I'm often asked of my students why I became a teacher. And I always tell my students I became a teacher for all the positive teachers and good teachers that I had, and also because of the negative teachers or bad teachers that I had. And they often want to know, well, why would you want to be like the bad teachers? And that's when I say, well, I don't. I want to make sure that I'm always like the positive experiences that I've had, and that I'm never like the teachers that gave me the negative experiences. One way that teachers have positively responded to my learning style is that I always did best with teachers who use multiple formats to teach. They would show it to us in print. They would give me music. They would show me a video. They would have us act it out. An example of this is, I will never forget, my 11th grade history teacher had us act out the Nuremberg trials. It took an awful lot of time, but I will never forget it, and I learned so much from it. Another positive response to my learning style is that I did best often with teachers who built my confidence. I had a science teacher who allowed retakes, and this really helped to build my confidence in that if I did poorly the first time, he would sit down with me, go over the test, look at what I already knew, and help build upon the concepts that I needed more practice with. Some teachers might say, well, this allows our students the chance to not study the first time around, but I feel like that's not the case. For me, because he allowed me to take the retakes, it allowed me to work more towards mastery of the skill and concept, and this was a positive response to my learning style. Moving on to the negative response to my learning styles, I can remember 7th grade math, and all I truly remember about it is that I didn't learn a whole lot. I feared going to that class every day because that teacher really, his teaching style, his classroom environment was one of fear, humiliation, and intimidation. He would call on you to catch you off guard, and then if you didn't know the right answer, he would make fun of you, and I just really don't feel like there's any place for that in education, and it did not serve me well as a learner. Well, what do digital generation students need in order to succeed in an online classroom? You know, after doing this project and looking at the INACOL standard, and looking at my learning experiences and my style, I really think that students from the digital generation and students from my generation, we all need many of the same things. You know, for example, whether you are a digital generation student in an online course or a face-to-face student, you need more than one exposure to content. You know, as an online teacher, I'd make sure that I would use a variety of materials to meet my objectives, texts, songs, and videos. I also would make sure that as an online instructor that I would provide multiple ways to practice and progressively write objectives and activities that lead to students seeing the big picture. Again, it's the same in a face-to-face classroom. Just the activities in an online classroom would need to have this same building or progressive effect. Finally, I really would want to focus on socialization and confidence and building a classroom of mutual respect like I tried to do in my face-to-face classroom. An online instructor really needs to build their students' confidence and provide feedback that's constructive, and it also provide feedback that comes from not only the instructor but from peers as well to help build confidence. The instructor of an online course, just like a face-to-face course, needs to be open-minded, needs to create a safe environment, one with mutual respect. Finally, in closing, face-to-face instruction and online instruction really serve a population of students with varying abilities. Both types of instruction most always need to take into account different learning styles and what is best for each individual learner.